time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Good to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. Brandon Ayuk news. Where's the Niners' talented offensive weapon headed? Is he headed anywhere? Also some news on who's going to play quarterback this week for the Steelers. We'll talk about that. A dreadful streak comes to an end. Billy Beane passes away. We'll have some thoughts on that with Cyd Zeigler coming up a little later on. He's the co-founder of Outsports.com. We'll also be joined by Damon Bruce in 10 minutes. Talk about some Bay Area sports issues, including the A's, Giants, and the Niners. But we start things out in basketball and the Olympics. And we say hello to Sam Yarnell, who hangs out with us every day here on the show. What are you? Can I ask you a question before we get into all this fun stuff? Give people a peek. Let's give people a peek behind the curtain. I was watching us on TV yesterday because we're on in Las Vegas on Silver Sports Network, channel 125 for those of you watching on Cox out there. And I always see you doing this, looking in that direction, down towards something. What is down there? Is that
way?
Yes.
Well, that's where the interns pass me notes from, Jason.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because throughout
Whenever
the whole
I
show,
get breaking news across the wire, the interns are always running to Studio S2 to pass me whatever the note is, so I have to reach through my window to grab it from them, and then I have to try and do it as nonchalantly as possible. I guess I need to clearly work on this, because, or maybe I need to have a talk with our interns and say, guys, you got to stop distracting me while Jason and I are doing the segments.
Yeah. Because throughout the whole show yesterday, I just saw you looking in that direction. I'm like, what is he looking at down there? What
this was during the discussion on what we were discussing, the Yankees and the Mets.
I don't know.
And I had a bunch of stuff that the interns were telling me about the Mets and how they're really terrible. And we got to stop pretending that this team is going to be anything good. And everyone should have listened to Jason Worth. And that was yesterday. This is today. Let's talk Raul Neto getting benched against the U.S. Olympic basketball team.
Yes, big news. So the USA is able to get a win against Brazil. Not shocking. They won big. I mean, it was somewhat close in the second quarter. I think we were talking about off air. It was 42-34 before the U.S. pulls away in the second half. Hope you took my advice on Anthony Davis over 9.5. I think I said, right? I think
rebounds, right?
No, points. I thought you said points. Yeah, it was points over 9.5.
Everyone went. This was the first game that the books actually suffered from with this team. Like, everyone went over every prop for once.
Okay. Well, USA rolls, and now they'll get Serbia again. And it's kind of interesting. The one team they did not play an exhibition game against was Brazil, right? And they beat Brazil by 1,000. They've seen all these other teams in exhibitions, and the games have still been relatively competitive. I don't know what happens against Serbia. I think the line is 16.5 right now. But it doesn't seem like there's much standing in the way between the U.S. and a gold medal right now.
No, and we knew this coming in. It's why the numbers against them to win gold reflected as heavily as they did. Heck, you and I talked on this very program about a parlay that I put together of both the men's and women's teams to win gold. It was minus 350. I said put 7 units on it and lay it, and we're looking great for a 2-unit return on that bet. I mean, you're talking about a women's basketball team that I believe is the 8-time Olympic gold medal reigning champions. Ridiculous. And then on the men's side, after what happened in the FIBA World Cup either last year or 2 years ago, I forget what the system is with all of those, we knew that the U.S. was going to come into this tournament seeking, every other team's head. And that's exactly what they've done. That's why they're minus 600 still with 4 teams remaining to win the whole thing. There's no surprise to me. They are the best team that was constructed in this tournament. They are a top 5 team constructed in the sport of basketball's history. It's been special to watch. And I mean, last night, Jason, I feel like was really the first time that we kind of looked at this team through all 4 quarters, even during the Brazil run that you mentioned in the second quarter, because the U.S. was up by 15 at the end of the first. Like, this game was close for like a 5-minute stretch in the second quarter because Brazil went on like a 12-0 run. But what we saw throughout the entirety of this game to me was, all right, yeah, like these are the GOATs playing together. Like that's simply what this team is. Even Steph Curry having an awful tournament. No one has talked about how Steph Curry has gone completely quiet this entire Olympics. And still, you watch them play, and the main message that you take away from watching this team is these are the greatest basketball players all together on the same court at the same time. It's awesome.
The only conversation that's going to be left when all is said and done with this is this version of Dream Team versus the original Dream Team. That's going to be the fun talk radio, sports talk, first take, hot take, your take, my take, take five, whatever you want to say. That is going to be the conversation, I think, by the time these Olympics are done. And remember back to those exhibitions. And I told everybody, I said at the time, don't worry about this USA team. That when the time came, when this team wanted to play, nobody was going to be able to play with them. And right now, through the first, 3-4 games of this international tournament that is the Olympics, nobody's even been able to touch them yet. The only question is, will somebody, whether it's Serbia, France, or Germany, will any of those teams, will there come a point late third, early fourth, where, the shooting just isn't there. Shots aren't falling. Teams say we're going to, they find some strategy, employ some method by which the U.S. just needs to make perimeter shots, and they can't. And you get into a situation where 7 minutes left in the game, it's a 5 or a 6 point game. Can anybody apply enough pressure to scare this team and make us find out? Or is it just a coronation? Is the next 2 games just a coronation for Team USA?
You've got to think the latter, right? Like, I don't see any way. Like,
shrug emoji? I don't know.
Germany, maybe. Serbia, definitely no. I'm sorry. They are a great story. No. France has melted down. They're benching Gobert now, so the whole concept of that team of let's get Wemby and Gobert together and run this Twin Towers, well, that didn't work. Germany, no. Like, Canada falling out of this tournament was the best thing that could possibly happen for the U.S. They were the main concern. Really quick, to your thing about the takes, and everyone's going to have their take. You said this team versus the other dream team. I tell you what, give me 2012 over both of those teams. That was the best U.S. basketball team there ever was.
And you did a good job mentioning that now because we don't even have time to debate it. We're coming back with Damon Bruce.
I'd like to say this is the first time, but there have been others.
How many?
Who can keep track?
You think this is a joke?
Darling, we need answers, and you're gonna give them to us.
Tell us again.
My car broke down. I brought it here.
I got stuck paying an expensive repair bill.
So it's true.
How much, darling?
$2,300.
$2,300.
What was I supposed to do? My transmission was shot.
You pick up your phone and you call CarShield before the car breaks down.
Plans through CarShield cover up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car.
That's right. A plan through CarShield could save you on some criminally high auto repairs, especially if your car is out of warranty. So, call CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company, before a breakdown and save yourself from getting stuck in car repair jail.
Let me guess. You hate saving money.
Who hates saving money?
Apparently you do.
All you had to do was call CarShield. And you could have protected yourself against expensive repairs.
Yeah, and then my price will go up the minute I file a claim.
Shut up! CarShield has the price locked in.
For as long as you cover your car.
I guess I should have called CarShield?
It's about time you said something that made sense.
Now you know what you need to do next time.
Bet he'll call CarShield now.
So can I go? Or
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. Don't get handcuffed paying expensive auto repairs. Call now and get the CarShield guarantee. Your price will never go up and your coverage will never go down as long as you cover your car. In just minutes, you could have a plan that covers up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car. Don't wait until it's too late. Get CarShield's best coverage yet. Call 800-722-6574.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
All right, Sam Yarnell will rejoin us later on the show for something to consider. Cyd Zeigler of Outsports on the passing of Billy Beane in 20 minutes. Let's spend a couple of segments with our buddy Damon Bruce in the Bay Area, in the shadow of the Golden Gate Bridge. Host of Damon Bruce Plus on YouTube. Subscribe, like, all of those good things. I see his clips pop up all the time on my X feed, and I love it. Gets me all caught up on everything I need from the Bay Area. Let's talk some Bay Area sports, Damon Bruce. Look, the A's finally, did something good. They made the White Sox look good for a change. The White Sox 21-game losing streak came to an end on Tuesday night.
In the clash of titanic, horrific ownership.
Damon, I just said
there can only be losers.
I said this yesterday on the show, and you'll appreciate this. All I hear about is how bad the economy is, right? Not to go like crazy political, but I can. It's my show. The economy's terrible. That there are 4,700 or 5,000 people that say, I'm going to spend my disposable income on A's White Sox on a Tuesday night is just mind-blowing to me.
It's like people have invested more in ticket price and their own personal time in that game than either franchise has invested in that game. When you look at how poorly these franchises are run and constructed, almost by design, it's amazing. It really is. And yeah, it is amazing that even 4,000 or 5,000 people would get together to watch that game. As unloved a game as you can find on any year's major league schedule. You got two teams screaming towards like 120 losses. It is just awful, awful baseball. Yet, a decent baseball game actually breaks out. That's also sort of the beauty of the sport. You can get terrible products on the field, and it was still a game. So,
let me ask you about the A's situation, because I know the team and John Fisher, they sold off their half of the Coliseum and all that stuff. Yeah. What's sort of the reality that is setting in for the fan base there now, and sort of what the final 6 weeks of this disaster look like?
You're looking at the dying embers of a campfire that should have been put out long, long ago. And I understand that fans who want to be fans for life and want to be loyal, they've hitched themselves to the wrong wagon, or their franchise became a wagon that you should want nothing to do with. It's a level of ownership disregard for fandom that I really believe should be a breaking point in one's fandom. The whole point is, I'm going to be so loyal, I will outlast terrible ownership, and I'll be at that parade someday in spite of all these guys. Like, that was the way I was sort of wired as a Cub fan growing up. This is walk away time from someone who is just a true snake oil salesman and a charlatan, and a guy who couldn't get a deal done in Oakland, hasn't really gotten a deal done other than a shoddy lease agreement with a minor league ballpark in Sacramento. I don't think Las Vegas has a chance in hell of even really still happening as long as he's involved. I could see the A's get stuck in Sacramento. But just to answer your question about fan reaction, it's apathy. I mean, there is, but for the 4,000 or 5,000 still left, still holding on to whatever hope is available in the universe, everyone has walked away from this. Everyone.
Is there a chance, though, Damon, not to try and give false hope here, but is there a chance that if the Vegas thing falls through and this thing just continues to turn into a huge disaster where you got a team playing in Sacramento, you got, they're barnstorming, playing all over the place, that Rob Manfred and the powers that be at baseball who have enabled this situation finally draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, sell the team. We're going to make you sell the team. And there is a chance the team stays in Oakland in that sort of scenario.
Where is the enough is enough point? And how have we not already reached it? I guess would be my follow-up there. Again, not to get political, but how much can Donald Trump get away with before someone says that's enough? Like, that's enough already. John Fisher is in that same boat. There is no amount of incompetence, negligence, poor timing, bad PR that he can throw at this situation that removes this situation from him or him from this situation. You famously can't fire the owner, but other owners have circled owners who have been bad for business and exercised them. There is a long history. I mean, I know we're sold this narrative that owners never turn on each other. That's nonsense. Owners turn on each other all the time when it makes business sense. How this has not made business sense to expel John Fisher from Major League ownership, I simply don't understand it. I really don't understand it, Jason, because I would like to think even the names that we discuss with that, well, we really don't like them. I don't like Rob Manfred. I don't like Rob Manfred at all, but I'm guessing somewhere in there is a decent businessman. The decent businessman should have overridden the lousy commissioner at this point and said, let's get someone in here who's better for business. But it hasn't happened. So I don't know where the line of outrage that the A's need to step over to get something done is, and how have they not crossed it already?
Yeah, I'm with you on it. It's frustrating to watch from afar as somebody who's consumed games within that ballpark that was once really one of the great places to watch a baseball game before Mount Davis went up. Real quick here, and I'll continue the conversation on the Giants in the next segment. The fact that they didn't move Snell at the deadline, sort of where this team is in almost purgatory right now, if you sort of look at the scenario. Talk a little bit about the Giants.
So bare minimum is 84 wins for wild card consideration. That's what got the Diamondbacks in last year. I think you got to do better than that. You're going to have to be 85, 87 wins. And look, they're a game under 500. They've been playing decent baseball since the All-Star break is over. They've been led by some, like you said, the Snell no-hitter. Robbie Ray has shown up in the middle of the season and looked an awful lot like a very good starting pitcher. Logan Webb is as dependable as the sun setting. So, they do have some good pitching. Their offense comes and goes, and they're a little boring, Jason, but they're not a terrible baseball team. They're a little boring, but they're not terrible, but they're also not good enough to step out on the field to have any expectation against the Dodgers or the Phillies or the big boys in baseball. They just are.
They're just sort of in no man's land right now. They're six back. They're six back on the wild card. Hold that thought, because I'll take you on the other side. They're in no man's land right now, and I don't know what that means for them in the offseason. We'll continue that conversation, and we'll talk about the Niners as we continue with Damon Bruce on Sports Wrap. Let's take it to segment 3 on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. Cyd Zeigler, founder of Outsports.com, on the passing of Billy Beane in 10 minutes. He knew him well. And it's crazy because we just had Tom Brenneman on the show last week talking about his relationship with Billy Beane. Obviously, tragic news with his passing at the age of 60 after a battle with leukemia. We continue the conversation right now with Damon Bruce, longtime Bay Area sports radio host, now host of Damon Bruce Plus. Catch him over on YouTube. Subscribe to it, like it, live it, love it. Damon,
Jason, on the passing of Billy Beane, my phone starts buzzing last night because I've been covering Bay Area sports for so long. And then after the phone buzzed, it buzzed in a second round with everyone saying, oh, the other Billy Beane, the other. So everyone thought that, Moneyball had passed away, and my phone gets very busy. And then, no, it's the other Billy Beane. Don't add an E on the end of the Beane. So, yes, everyone who covers sports these days is very bad at checking the fine print before they start chasing stories.
Don't make me go off on a tangent on the Olympic boxing story. Like, oh my God, everybody there saying, oh my God, it's a man. No, it says in Austin Powers, that's a man, baby. No, it wasn't a man, baby. So let me talk to you one more on the Giants here.
Yeah.
What is if this thing ends the way it looks like it's going to end? 500 teams, sort of, languishing in mediocrity. Where do they go in this offseason? Because they put a lot into last offseason. They couldn't get Ohtani. They couldn't get Judge the year before. But it's not like for a lack of effort here.
It just feels like that the dance that they're doing to talk themselves into being a contender this year, not that they were buyers on the deadline, but I thought that they should have been sellers, and the sellers would have returned a crop of young players that you're then going forward with, because they don't seem to be developing enough young players in their own farm system. There doesn't seem to be a single marquee free agent who has a second bidder coming after them who comes to the Giants. This is a problem that predated Farhan. I don't know if Farhan Zaidi is someone who's going to solve this problem. He is deep enough into his tenure as general manager of the San Francisco Giants to where this is now all you, dude. This is your farm system. These are your off seasons. These are your free agent choices. These are your contracts. And I got to tell you, I'm galactically unimpressed. Farhan is not bad at his job, but he's not impressive at it in any way. And then you hear the elements of him having a lousy bedside manner with players, with agents. He overpromises and underdelivers with the media. He has an average team with a well above average payroll that does nothing to benefit them from really getting out of it. If a player has a lousy year, they opt into a bad contract. If they have a good year, they opt out and they test that market again. And it just feels like there's a revolving door on anything that is attached to having consequences around here. And the Giants are stuck on the treadmill of, to mix sports metaphors, they are that 37-win NBA team, that 42-win NBA team. They're just middled, and they don't bottom out to rebuild, and they don't reach the top to say, look at what we've done.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
They're just stuck. And let's not look. I'm all for playoff baseball. I was totally wrong about the wild card's original inception. I do think it is overexpanded now. The Giants are contenders because we've lowered the standard for contending. Not because they've met the standard of contention. They've lowered the standard, so the Giants now apply to it in some weird mathematical way. And, it's just, it's this summer will happen, and then no one will discuss it, not ever again. It's just in a vacuum that will go away soon.
Let's talk about something to look forward to, and that's Niners football. Will Brandon Ayuk somehow manage to still be on this roster come week 1, or are they going to find somebody to deal him away to? And a second question, and I know I could hear Jason Barrett or Don Collins in my head going, well, you shouldn't ask 2 questions in one, because then they could choose which one they want to answer. I'm going to ask you a second question and follow up already in one, and that is this. Is some of this on John Lynch for not finding a way to make this work? Because you've only got but a limited time to make a run. The windows close eventually. And the beauty of the Niners is that they are the sum of the whole. They are the sum of their parts. You take Brandon Ayuk away, unless you're bringing back something of equal value in return, which you're not. You're just going to get some draft picks or something like that. To me, it feels like a failure on John Lynch's part to not figure out a way to make this work.
I will try to answer all of your questions with a metaphor. So it's dinner time. We're all sitting around the table, and your teenage son, who you should know better than anyone else, is a big part of the family. But unfortunately, your son has different plans than what you had for him. Now, you thought that everyone was on the same page, but teenagers, as their nature indicates, are hard to gauge what they really want. What does Brandon Ayuk really want? Because if you want to be on a good team, you are on one now. If you want to hit the most amount of money possible, then you need to hit free agency, not try to negotiate with no leverage during an already agreed to option year, which the team has the right to exercise. They still have 3 years of control over the option year and 2 franchise tags if they really wanted to play hardball on you. So what do you want? Do you want to be here? Yes or no? Brandon Ayuk says the bag is the thing, the destination is not. So then they go out and they get a dance partner, apparently, and it was the New England Patriots. And at the draft, there was a deal in place. Brandon Ayuk's team looked at it and said, we're not going to sign an extension in New England. So all of a sudden, the bigger bag of money in another place that you said you wanted was there, and now you say, don't want that. So now we're back to the dinner table. And Billy, what do you want? How do you do this? Yes, you can place some blame on John Lynch, but it does take not just 2, but in this case, 3 to tango. You need another team and Team Ayuk to all agree to something. And it looks like, Papa Lynch went out and got a deal to sort of head all this. Maybe he did see that his rambunctious teenage son was about to be a pain in the rear end. So he did try to get him moved out of town, and it still didn't happen. And now here we are in the one thing that the 49ers didn't need. That was a distraction attached to what was supposed to be the first smooth offseason of Brock Purdy's life. And it feels avoidable, but I also know why it hasn't been avoided. So there's a lot of blame to go around. I don't know who deserves the most of it.
Damon Bruce Plus on YouTube. Thank you, my friend.
Always great to see you, Paige. Thanks an awful lot. Nice Tiffany basketball, by the way. That thing's pretty cool. My wife is going to want one of those.
There you go. Get her one. We'll see you soon.
Take care. It's the only thing from Tiffany's I can get her right now.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Continue the conversation. Sam Yarnell will rejoin us in 10 minutes for something to consider. Billy Beane passed away on Tuesday. We learned of the news. He was 60 years old. He was the second former Major League Baseball player to come out in 1999 after Glenn Burke did so in 1982. And Billy Beane was an advocate for diversity across the board, really. But it all started with him coming out in 1999. One person who obviously knew him and knew his story well is Cyd Zeigler, who joins us on the show today, founder of Outsports.com, joining us from Paris. So I appreciate you giving us the time while you're out there at the Olympics. So Cyd, tell people who really didn't know or understand the value of Billy Beane for Major League Baseball. You saw the outpouring of emotion from people across social media yesterday when the news passed, or when the news crossed of his passing. Tell us about Billy Beane and tell people about Billy Beane that may not have really known him.
Well, like you said, Billy Beane played in Major League Baseball 35 years ago. And I think the powerful part of having him then come to the front office of Major League Baseball and work in diversity and inclusion was his story. And when he played for the San Diego Padres, his longtime partner died of AIDS. And Billy was so freaked out at the time in the early 90s that he would be discovered as being gay by his teammates that he skipped his partner's funeral so that he didn't miss their game that day. And I think that through his life, there was a part of regret about that. I think Billy believed that he could not be out at the time. I don't know if that's true, and none of us know if that's true. He certainly felt that way, like a lot of gay athletes do today. And I think that he spent a lot of his time maybe trying to make good on how he felt about that day, that maybe he could have missed one game to attend his partner's funeral. And what he did is he poured that heart and emotion into connecting with people across baseball, connecting with current players, connecting with current front office executives and team managers. And what you saw yesterday when people started talking about Billy is that he did connect with them, that his emotion and his heart and his demeanor made it very easy for people to connect with him and hear his story and understand the importance of making sure that their team was an inclusive place for gay players, gay anybody. So I think that was the power of Billy, is that his story was so emotional and so obviously humanly painful that it connected with some people that a lot of us may not be able to connect with.
Talking with Cyd Zeigler, Billy Beane passing away at the age of 60 from leukemia. He was diagnosed with about a year ago, I think. It was about a year ago. He obviously hit him very hard and very fast, and he fought courageously. We just happened to have Tom Brenneman on the show last week, and we talked about you within the context of that conversation, how you had talked with Tom Brenneman shortly after the hot mic moment he had where the homophobic slur comes out and all of that. And he mentioned you. And also in that conversation, he talked about Billy Beane because Major League Baseball had Billy Beane reach out to him. So it's kind of wild that just a week later we lose Billy Beane. But and I talked briefly with Tom Brenneman via text yesterday, and he was saying, he was crushed because it wasn't just about dealing with players or anything like that. He was somebody who tried to help anybody, to try and understand the importance of words, why they matter. Talk a little bit about that if you can, because I know you, like I said, you talked with Tom Brenneman as well.
Yeah, when Tom, made that terrible mistake on live television 4 years ago, a lot of people wanted to destroy him and his career. And I think that Billy and I and a lot of people in the LGBTQ sports space are the same, where we can acknowledge somebody's mistake and also acknowledge their desire to correct it. And Billy and I both worked with Tom, as did, a few other people, to help him correct that mistake and help turn somebody who did something really homophobic into somebody who outwardly supports the community. So, Billy and I talked about that a lot. I think he and I had slightly different approaches, but I remember it was Daniel Murphy, Billy coming to the defense of Daniel Murphy when Murphy said really, I thought really poor things about gay people and homosexuality. That's who Billy was. Billy wanted to build bridges. He didn't want to alienate people, and he certainly did not.
Let me ask you one thing before we go, because I only got about 60 seconds here. Who fills the breach? Who steps up now and takes the mantle from a Billy Beane?
I'll tell you who. Brian Ruby. Brian is a minor league baseball player. He's not a major leaguer. But Brian is a country western singer. He played several years minor league baseball. He has an organization, I think, is proud to be in baseball. And he's been working with a lot of minor league teams, some major league teams. And he has a very similar demeanor, a similar ability to share his story in a locker room in a way that other baseball players will understand. So, he's not Billy Beane. Nobody will ever be Billy Beane. But the closest thing is a guy named Brian Ruby. And I hope that major league and minor league teams will reach out to Brian and his organization.
Well, I hope Major League Baseball has a plan, or at least has thought about, who sort of takes that role, because it's an important role within Major League Baseball. And we still consider there are no out Major League Baseball players in a league with, hundreds of players. And we know what the math says. So, Cyd Zeigler, Outsports, joining us from Paris. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap on this Wednesday. Something to consider is next. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in about 10 minutes. Something to consider, Sam Yarnell. Is that good enough for you?
There it is.
I think I'm going to go experience a little bit of what the Vegas casino scene has to offer today. I'm going to go hit up a sports book for the first time since moving over here. Over Station Casinos in Durango. Go hit up that property. Go watch a little Yankees Angels doubleheader. It's a chance I may not come home. It's a good chance the locks may be changed if I do come home. Gamble responsibly. Know when to say when. Sam Yarnell, something to consider. Consider that the Niners still haven't traded Brandon Ayuk 24 hours after we last discussed them trading Brandon Ayuk. The Patriots are reportedly out when it comes to the, I guess, sweepstakes, if you want to call it that. So as of right now, that just leaves the Browns and maybe the Steelers, who we'll get to in a second. Not a bad target for Russell Wilson.
Listen, I mean, when we were talking about this on the show yesterday, everyone out there will remember, like, when I talk to people around these teams and around the NFL, the sentiment towards both Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel kind of all off season has been, from the Niners perspective, yeah, we'll let all these reports surface about wanting to be traded and trading and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they don't have a concrete, solid interest in it. I'm sure if the deal is good enough, they would be willing to, which is like, it sounds exactly like what happened here. It sounds like the Patriots were willing to offer enough that the Niners were like, all right, fine. Well, listen, like, we're not going to say no to this. And then as soon as Ayuk started talking to the Patriots, he realized that he wasn't going to get what he wanted there. I'm interested. Also, the Cleveland Browns have seemingly fallen off the map, Jason. It was like they were reported on being in for like 12 hours, and now all of a sudden their name isn't being mentioned in any of the new reporting, and the Steelers have popped up out of nowhere. Very, very, very confusing to me in regard to the entire Brandon Ayuk saga, if we're willing to call it that. And at the end of the day, if it's not going to the Patriots, and this is something I was thinking about yesterday after you and I had our conversation, if he's not going to the Patriots, then he's going somewhere to win. It's what you and I established yesterday. The Patriots could pay him the most money. That's the only reason he'd go there, to win years down the road, but to be the real cornerstone contractually of that franchise. If he goes somewhere else, it's to be on a competitor, right? That's what we were talking about with the Browns. I imagine that would be the thought with the Steelers too. Even though their payroll is very low, they could give him the bag. My point is this. Yeah. If he wants to win a ring, why are you at all interested in leaving San Francisco? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. It is starting to feel like it's all smoke and mirrors.
I just start to wonder, and I talked about this with Damon Bruce, is there a scenario, and you heard his response, I just wonder if there's a scenario where he winds up staying. Like, can it be reconciled to the point that he plays it out and plays the season, or does he sit out? You know, that's kind of what I'm curious to see. Or do they want that distraction around a team that is potentially a Super Bowl contender? Also, something to keep an eye on. All right, let's talk about Justin Fields.
How do the Bears respond? Fields on the move. First read, not there, fires, and that is caught. That's a strike.
Where are we at on that?
Well, if you'll remember, if you'll just think back to a couple of weeks ago, on this very program, when we were just throwing around some NFL bets during a segment that you and I needed to fill during the low season, I said, Jason,
talk about
this
peek behind the
Justin Fields
curtain
bet at 4-1. It really seems like it'll play just for him to be the week 1 starter. I mean, Russ could get injured. A bunch of things could happen. Maybe they just like him better. Oh, that 4-1 nearly been cut in half. It's plus 250 now. So many reports coming out of Steelers training camp that Justin Fields has excelled in the offense. Obviously, Russell Wilson dealing with the leg injury. That's like sidetracking him. I'm not sure it's completely sidelining him. Regardless, Justin Fields is going to be their week 1 starter, not only in the preseason, but in the regular season as well.
Sam Yarnell is laying it down. He says that Justin Fields will be the week 1 starter. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if you can start him week 1 with everything you went through in getting Russell Wilson over here. It would be surprising to me if they didn't at least give him the opportunity, unless it's health related. It would surprise me if they didn't at least give Russell Wilson an opportunity to fail before putting Justin Fields in. Now, I get the fact that he's getting more reps, he's getting more time under Arthur Smith's system, and I'm kind of curious, and I haven't heard much from Arthur Smith Not that I've gone like digging terribly to see Arthur Smith quotes, but I'm really curious to see what Arthur Smith, I would love to be inside his head right now and what he's thinking as he develops this offense and starts to look forward to week 1 about what this team will look like if it is Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson, because the offenses are different. I mean, what you scheme around for Justin Fields is going to be different than what you do with Russell Wilson, because it's Russell Wilson at this stage of his career where he's not as mobile and you're not going to have him run around as much.
Here's my only thing with regard to how much this franchise has invested in either guy. When you think about it, Russell Wilson is a guy they signed at the end of the day off the street for the veteran minimum. They traded draft picks for Justin Fields. I think there's more of an investment from the Steelers in Justin Fields, and I think it'll reflect. Jason, Russell Wilson might not make it to week 1 on the Steelers.
Mic drop. It's kind of crazy. Odds and ends are next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Don't forget, if you miss anything from the show, anything at all, let not your heart be troubled. We have something called the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Each and every episode waiting there for you like a good friend. It's available on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcasts. Without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, it has ended. After a AL record-tying losing streak of 21, the White Sox found pay dirt. They win, beat the A's on Tuesday night. I think 5-1 was the final. Doesn't matter. They won. I don't think if they had won 1-0, it would have counted just the same. The White Sox finally get in the win column after 21 straight losses. Sam Yarnell, what do you have to say?
So their season win total went up a win with the win. It's now 39.5. Juice still to the over. I would get in on that under. I do think they will probably end up the worst team of all time. Jason, I have an important question for you. So now with that win, the White Sox sitting at 88 losses on the year. Their crosstown rival, the Cubs, with 60 losses on the year. That combines for 148, if my math is correct.
No, it's 150. It's like 150 something, but that's okay.
No, wait.
What did you say? It's 88 and 66?
88 and 60.
Oh, okay.
88 and 60 is 148.
Sorry.
So 148 losses between the two of them this season. Do these teams combine for 210 losses?
No, I don't see 62 more losses. You keep making me do math. This is going to be an epic disaster. But 62 more.
That is what it is.
62 more losses between the two of them.
That would essentially be them playing, like, if I'm doing my math correctly, just under 500 baseball. I don't expect either of them to. I think that
would
this
have
is
to be
on
the
base
worst.
to be the.
Would that be the worst city in the history of baseball for a season?
That's what I was what I was alluding to. I believe this will be the worst city in baseball's history, which is wild. It speaks to how good the Yankees have been, and I guess the Dodgers as well, although the Angels haven't been around for very long. But that's wild for two franchises. The White Sox being around for 30 years now. Going to be the losingest city of all time in Major League Baseball history. Wild thing to think about.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Although I wonder, when the Mets had their really bad season in '62, how good were the Yankees in '62? Have we looked this up? Let's see, 1962 Yankees. Oh no, they were good. They were 96.
Interns are passing.
Nah, they were 96.
96
yeah, they
games.
won 96.
Yeah, they actually in '62 the Yankees won the World Series.
Yeah, so there you go. I have never been one of those fans that can name stuff by like year and this and that. Like, I have never been that guy. I get people all the time. You get the wise guys at the bar when they find out who you are or what you do, who will be like, who will start asking you like trivia questions. I am not trivia guy. If you ask me, who led the league in batting average in 1984, I'm just like, dude, really? I can look it up. I don't need to know it off the top of my head. It just, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just kind of the way I feel about it. So the White Sox win. Oh, Corey Seager, nice job last night, making sure that Framber Valdez doesn't get his second no-hitter. 2 outs, 9th inning. Did you see it?
Oh, yeah.
The 2-run home run, basically meaningless at the end of the day, but the Astros beat the Rangers 4-2, but Framber Valdez was within 1 out of another no-hitter. I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this before, nobody wants to play the Astros in this postseason. I don't care what the roster looks. I don't care. You do not want the Astros winning that division and being a team you have to play in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we kind of learned our lesson with that, 2 postseasons ago? I'm so tired of that franchise, man. I hate to say it. The one good thing is, Jason, and I know our viewers on Masson will especially appreciate this, they did lose the 2019 World Series to the Washington Nationals in their home stadium. I mean, what an electric moment. By the way, just to answer your earlier question, although I know you said you'd never know the answer, in 1984, Tony Gwynn led the league in batting average. John Mattingly for the AL.
Oh, Mattingly belongs in the Hall of Fame. Astros, by the way, to make the playoffs are minus 165 right now. The no is plus 126.
So here's an interesting thing. I was talking to, I was talking to somebody in the baseball world the other day. And the thought expressed was essentially there's going to be one team come out of the American League West. We know there will be 2 teams come out of the American League East. But this person specifically thinks that the American League Central is going to end up the 3 playoff team division, which is wild for me to think about.
It's going to put the wraps on us for a Wednesday edition of the show. Thank you, Sam. Thank you to Cyd Zeigler for joining us from Paris to talk about the passing of Billy Beane, and also thanks to Damon Bruce. We'll catch you back here on Thursday for another edition of Sports Wrap. I'm Jason Page. See ya.
Mm-hmm.